Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our final general session of the 9th Annual FAV Summit. Please welcome your moderator for this session, CFX Chief Staff and Public Relations Officer, Public Affair Officer. Please welcome Michelle Mikish.
Good afternoon. We're very excited that you all have stayed, and we're even more excited that we can give back the best gift of all, which is time. Round of applause for that, right? So what an exciting 3 days that we've had. I hope all of you have enjoyed this year's summit as much as I have. For the final finale, we have an amazing hour planned for you when we're about to hear from some of our top transportation leaders here in Florida about how we are planning and implementing some of the emerging technologies that you all have heard about throughout this year's summit. The state, along with local agencies such as CFX, THEA, MDX, JTA, and even our transit partners are all committed to providing first-class mobility solutions to our residents and our visitors. As my executive director, Laura Kelly, said yesterday, what an exciting time it is to be in the business of transportation. So let's get started, and let me introduce our esteemed panel. Please welcome back Mr. Brad Thoburn, FDOT Assistant Secretary for Strategic Development, Nicola LaCourie, Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer for Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, and finally, Dr. Lilly, the Director of Transportation Institute and the Barbara Goldsby Professor of Civil Engineering at the University of Florida. So please now let's welcome our esteemed panel as they share their presentations. We'll start with Mr. Thoburn.
Let me see if I can keep got my hands full up here now. Well, good afternoon, and I know a lot of you are looking to get to your next location here, so we'll try to be quick about this. I wanted to just give an overview of really the world of what we call ACES at Florida DOT, which is autonomous, connected, electric, and shared. And again, you know, a high-level overview that kind of shows where we're involved from planning and policy to testing and deploying, and also building partnerships and identifying opportunities into the future. So just to kind of set the stage a little bit as it relates to, you know, we talk about the vital few is really what drives some of our work at the DOT right now. We're focused on safety, mobility, innovation, and also attracting and retaining talent. And when we talk about safety, you know, we're seeing an increase in fatalities, even though we're seeing a decrease in accidents. And so it's very concerning to us, and we're always looking for different ways to improve safety. And so we obviously, you know, we have the 4 E's. In fact, I think we're up to 5 or 6 E's by now. I keep hearing new ones. And so it's a little bit hard to keep track sometimes, but we really are taking an all-in approach, and that includes innovation using new technologies. And I think there's just tremendous opportunity as it relates to creating safer environments on our roads and throughout the modes and bike and pedestrian facilities to improve safety and reduce fatalities. I think you'll see some interesting opportunities as it relates to not only autonomous but connected vehicles, work zones, things like rail grade crossings and so forth are opportunity areas for us into the future, and I think technology will drive a lot of those innovations and enhancements to safety. So another area as it relates to mobility, we're seeing, you know, before the pandemic, we were seeing VMT actually go up faster than population. We talked earlier about population growth, and it's dramatic increase in I think we were 18% over the last decade. I think we're the second fastest. Texas was a little bit faster than us in terms of their growth percentage, but we're up to 22 million people, and you know, we're going to be somewhere around, I think, 24 to 25 by the end of this decade, and that's sort of a conservative estimate. And I think that what we're seeing right now is more people moving here, and so we look, especially in our urban areas. We know that we're going to have more challenges in terms of capacity, reliability, and so we're going to be looking at ways we can use technology to enhance those areas, especially when you think about urban areas where you just don't have room to expand and create capacity in a cost-effective manner. We have to optimize our existing infrastructure. And then, again, innovation is really the core of what we're talking about when we talk about ACES anyway. And so it sort of captures all the things that are happening there, but how do we really leverage the things that are happening in the private sector in terms of the public sector investments? How do we build those partnerships? We had a lot of talk about electric vehicles during this conference, and that's kind of exciting to see, but we're also seeing innovations in other areas, whether it's freight mobility, transit, and aviation, and so forth. So I mentioned earlier that we kind of take a look at a couple different areas where we're involved. Planning and policy is sort of the tip of the spear in a sense, where these things guide us going forward. You can see we have a myriad of plans. Our challenge is always to try to make sure that they are timely, they're agile, they're nimble, and they're integrated. So we have modal plans across the board for all of our modes, except for transit, actually, which is kind of interesting. But we're in the process of developing a statewide transit strategy that's going to really help us address how we can support our partners in transit to leverage technology. The Florida Transportation Plan is sort of the overarching plan for the states, not DOTs. Again, technology and innovation is a huge piece of that, and that's a major change. If you look at the previous FTPs versus the current, you'll see that we have really infused it with infrastructure, I think we call it sometimes, but it actually drives our other plans like SIS, where we're actually updating the SIS policy plan. We're going to have this out on the street for comment in the next couple of weeks. And one of the things we're focusing on is how do we define capacity a little differently, focus more on people and freight instead of cars and trucks necessarily. So how do we measure capacity and movement and mobility, and then also providing flexibility in our programs like the SIS, where we can invest in things that we may not have traditionally invested in the SIS program. Maybe it is the technology enhancements that provide capacity on our corridors, things like that. And then we also have, again, we talked a lot about the EV Master Plan, and this is a new document. I hope you get a chance to take a look at it. It's going to be, I think, challenge us going forward. While our adoption rate, we can look at and say, well, we're not that far along. We're seeing a lot of people, the sales are going up. Even the registrations are a little bit lagging in terms of where we stand with other states. We're seeing the increase in vehicle sales, the commitment from the OEMs, and then the federal funds that are going to be available for us to enhance the infrastructure for electric charging stations. We have a variety of CAV projects throughout the state. I think this is actually kind of, I think it's a narrowly focused map even. It shows a lot of things happening in the planning, design, implementation, and operations phases. But the truth is we have partners throughout the state that are doing things as well that may not be reflected here. I know Cutter's doing some work in terms of getting a more robust look at what's happening in CAV throughout the state and working with us to do that. SunTrack's another example. I'm not going to talk about it much because Nicola's going to do that. But it's a good area, a good example of the places where we talk about where we're testing and deploying. And it is really the premier place where we're testing and engaging the private sector and public sector partners to advance innovation. And then, we have a variety of projects where we're actually doing the deployment, our frame projects along I-4 and I-75, where we're doing integrated corridor management and roadside units and freight signal priority and things like that, transit signal priority and incident management. So really kind of charging up these corridors with technology to make better use of the existing infrastructure. We're also working with various partners, and you can see the work where we may have funding or we're providing technical assistance or whatever it might be in terms of advancing transit, connected vehicles. A TheaPilot was one that was, clearly out on the front end of the connected vehicle effort. So really exciting things happening throughout the state with our various partners. And so that kind of captures the areas of testing and deploying, and it leads us into the part of that's so important, which is building the partnerships. Michelle talked about all the folks that are involved. And so when we look at where we are as a department, people look at us as, we are known for the interstates and bridges and major roadway facilities more than we are some of the modal improvements throughout the state. But we are playing a very big role in funding, providing technical assistance, safety oversight, sometimes regulatory roles. And so when it comes to innovation that's happening amongst our various partners, we are always looking to ways that we can be involved and be helping advance those things. And I think there's a couple of areas out there that are worth noting that I think the FAV itself is one of those really key partnership engagements where we're really kind of putting out to the rest of the country the work that's happening in Florida and advocating for the ecosystem that we're creating here to foster innovation and create opportunities. And so I think that's something we like to highlight. Chamber's got the Autonomous Florida program. And then at the local level, you can see, whether it's Central Florida's Automated Vehicle Partnership or the North Florida Smart Mobility program, where they've developed a smart region plan through the North Florida TPO. Those are all great examples where our local partners are taking the lead and we're supporting. And as we look long-term, we're focused on where are some of the opportunity areas and kind of capture this here with people, freight, system, and tools. Within people, there are opportunities to provide universal access, enhance, really seamless mobility between modes. And on the freight side, we heard a lot this past week about, this whole supply chain issue and how can we optimize our freight flows? How can we better use data that's out there? Are there innovations that we can be, advancing in partnership with our ports and so forth? And then a key issue as we look to the future is how resilient our systems are. And I think traditionally there's a focus on resiliency from a sea level or storm event perspective, and how do we respond to that? I think we learned over the last year that resiliency is bigger than weather. It's responding to the pandemic, and how do our businesses and our government institutions change the way they do business and still keep things moving. And I actually think it's one of the great stories of the last 2 years is the resiliency of the Florida communities and businesses and government agencies. So we need to look at how innovation and technology and automation can make us a more resilient state as well. And then, I think if you saw earlier yesterday, we had the professor from UCF was talking about the predictive analytics, and that was really impressive. There's other that's really kind of an emerging area where there's, I think, a lot of opportunity and excitement as we can, the safety benefits of understanding the in real time where there might be an accident. How can you mobilize how can you change can you have smart signals that can respond to the conditions? Can you change the conditions, or can you be prepared to respond from an incident management standpoint faster because you have an understanding of where the risks are, and then long-term planning, how you mitigate some of those situations. So we see those as opportunities going to the future, and I'm going to hand it over to Nicola, who's going to give you a little bit overview of the SunTrax, which is a super exciting effort.
Thanks, Brad. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Nicola LaCourie. I proudly serve as the Executive Director and CEO for Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, and SunTrax falls under the Enterprise's purview. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about it today. Let me move through. So this is the approach of the facility. We have some administrative offices that are open. This actually is a shot from several months ago. The construction of the infield has been underway since late 2019, excuse me, and it'll be finished in early summer of next year. So it's coming along quite nicely. One of the things that I wanted to mention, just as we talk about SunTrax and we talk about the future of transportation, is just really how much I've enjoyed being part of the Florida Department of Transportation team. I joined the department about 15 years ago, and I started with the Turnpike as a consultant about 20 years ago. And I have had not one boring day in all of that time. And the reason is because FDOT and the Turnpike Enterprise has always been on the leading side of innovation and looking for transportation solutions. We all know that we have a wide and diverse state, and so we have to be pretty flexible in terms of looking at solutions that work in rural areas, that work in coastal areas, that work in highly dense downtown areas. We have to be able to solve all of those things and in a multimodal fashion. And so all of that is to say why SunTrax was so important for the state of Florida. As Brad mentioned, the FDOT has the vital few, and collectively, there are 4 items, but collectively they kind of serve as our North Star as transportation professionals in the state of Florida. It's about improving safety, enhancing mobility, inspiring innovation, and fostering talent, and really that's a much broader discussion of workforce development, making sure that we properly train our transportation professionals today and the team that we have today, but also with an eye on future generations of transportation professionals, knowing that it is going to be a much broader group of specialties that we need as transportation continues to be more technology focused. We will always need the civil engineers, but we will need other areas of engineering that will be extremely important. I myself, I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA. Understanding the financial world of transportation is also extremely important. So bringing various disciplines together, I think, is going to be important for moving transportation forward. So just real quickly, for those of you that may not be familiar with Florida's Turnpike Enterprise or SunTrax as it's situationally located, I just wanted to show this map to provide a little bit of context. And so what you'll see on this map are a number of facilities that are called out. The facilities that in blue make up Florida's Turnpike system. It is a system of toll roads throughout the state. Many of you may be familiar with the 312-mile main line that is Florida's Turnpike. That is just one roadway, but there are several other facilities, standalone facilities, that make up the Turnpike system. The Sawgrass Expressway in South Florida, Veterans Expressway, Suncoast Parkway, First Coast Expressway up in Jacksonville. So a variety of facilities. And then the other facilities that you see called out are FDOT facilities that are owned and operated, and for which Florida's Turnpike serves as the toll operator. SunTrax is a test facility that is situated along I-4, but it is also connected to our Polk Parkway. Auburndale, Florida, Polk County, and it's about midway between Orlando and Tampa if you're driving along I-4. And the importance of that facility, really the genesis of that facility, was not necessarily the broader transportation needs, but it really was fundamentally because we needed a place to test toll technology. And as the toll operator for the state, we process upwards of close to 2 billion toll transactions on an annual basis. Our toll systems have to be robust, from the device that you have in your car, whether it's a SunPass or an ePass or an EasyPass, that device in your car, but also the roadway infrastructure, the gantries that you pass under, the fiber optic network that runs along our system, the back office operations. All of those systems have to be tested vigorously, separately, and together. And really, SunTrax was that place for us to test our toll technology in a robust and controlled environment. But beyond that, we are part of FDOT, and we know that there are a number of transportation challenges that we have throughout the state, and we needed a place to study those emerging technologies. And it's not even so much about what we're testing and the technology that's being tested. It is about how to incorporate it into various areas of the transportation network. Again, whether it's a high-speed limited access facility like a toll road, or whether it's an urban environment, we wanted to have a place to be able to test various transportation solutions. And so over the years, and as we've talked about over the last couple of days, understanding the statutory framework, the legal framework that allows us to do some of this, to move forward with connected autonomous vehicles and even the electrification progress, we needed to have that proper regulatory framework. So the very first thing that we needed as the Turnpike Enterprise is a modification to the Turnpike Enterprise law to allow us to have a facility like this. Again, not only for toll testing, but to broaden beyond that for connected autonomous and electric vehicles. And so we did, several years ago, get a modification to Florida Statute 338 that allowed us to move forward. That was extremely important as a first step. And then, of course, as we all know, the leadership that we've had in the state of Florida over the last couple of years has been very conducive to autonomous vehicles. And on the left side of this, you'll see Governor DeSantis signing House Bill 311, really expanding the ability for autonomous vehicles to operate in the state of Florida. This past year, we know that additional legislation was passed as it related to autonomous vehicle deliveries, delivery vehicles that are used in an autonomous fashion. So that regulatory framework has been extremely important. And another piece of legislation that passed in the last couple of years was the infrastructure bill to broaden the statewide infrastructure as it relates to electrification. And part of that is expanding the network of electric vehicle charging stations throughout the state, making sure that there's a robust network as our transportation fleet continues to change and become more electric vehicles, and that adoption rate continues to increase. Florida's Turnpike Main Line, with its 8 service plazas located alongside it, was a great place to expand the electric vehicle charging networks. And so over the last year and a half, we have significantly expanded the EV charging stations that we have. Our first EV charging stations were actually deployed in 2015, but we've had very few of them. But in the last year and a half, we have significantly expanded. The chart here says 53 charging stations. Actually, it's around 90 right now, and by the end of the year, it'll be 99 charging stations along the situated with the 8 service plazas along the main line. That wouldn't happen without significant partnerships with FP&L, Duke Energy, Tesla, and then our concessionaire, the operator of our service plazas, Arius. All of those things had to come together. Brad mentioned public-private partnerships, and that has been a very significant public-private partnership to bring EV charging through the state of Florida and expand that network. So now we'll talk just a little bit about the physical attributes of the SunTrax facility. And really I wanted to focus here with this slide to show you how quickly we've moved in the last 4 years. So the picture that you see on the left is right about 4 years ago, November 2017. And it was, you know, a dream and a shovel, and we got started with SunTrax. And in summer of 2019, the first phase was completed. The signature piece of that first phase was the 2.25 mile high-speed oval that you see there in the picture, and that's where we've been able to do some of our initial testing. Along with that, we also opened our administrative buildings, providing offices and lab space to review test results, primarily on the tolling side, but other applications too. So what is some of the testing that we've done out at the facility? So this is all testing that's been done really in the last year. So we have 4 specialized toll gantries alongside that 2.25 mile oval. And we have, across the state, we have 3 toll integrators that provide equipment to us. So 3 of the 4 test sites that we have out at SunTrax mimics those toll integrators that we have in production. So if we want to make a change to our tolling system, we can test it at SunTrax in a controlled environment before rolling it out into production statewide. The 4th toll gantry is for testing outside of those 3 providers. One of the most significant milestones that we achieved in the past year was interoperability with the E-ZPass network. For those of you in the Northeast, you're, I'm sure, very familiar with E-ZPass, but E-ZPass is the toll provider in primarily the Northeast states. And we needed to have compatibility between our SunPass system and E-ZPass. We did a lot of that testing out at SunTrax and rolled that out into production in May of this year, a significant milestone for the state of Florida. We've also done some connected vehicle testing out there. Some of it is the applications for connected vehicles themselves, but some of it is interference testing to ensure that any connected vehicle technologies that we use don't interfere with our toll production sites. And so that's an important part of the testing that we do. As it relates to 5G technology, we know all of the benefits of 5G. But some of the ways that it's being deployed are small cell sites that are located along roadway infrastructure. And one of the things that we wanted to do, and again, it was in partnership with the wireless providers, was to test those small cell sites with the 5G technology in proximity to our toll gantries, again, to determine if there was any interference, any degradation of the toll technology, and so we completed that testing earlier this year. We've also done a number of safety testing out at SunTrax, again in the connected vehicle area, so using roadside units and collecting data and transmitting it back to the vehicles. We can provide wrong way alerts to drivers, queue warnings, stop conditions, any number of safety items that we can provide to drivers along the roadway network. The testing was so successful that we were able to accelerate the deployment of that technology to a number of high-profile states throughout our roadway network. So we've just accelerated that project at a number of locations in Central and South Florida along the Turnpike system. So it's an extremely important part of what we've done out at SunTrax. So getting to phase two, because I think that is all the question that I hear the most, when is it going to be done? So this is a nice overhead shot that we've seen. Phase two, some of the attributes, the 10 testing sectors that are in the infield, well, I'm gonna scoot right along to some of the pictures. So the entry campus, showing some of the construction so you can see. I don't know if it's not loading. You can see some of the recent construction as it relates to the entry campus. The Arrival and Conference Center, I would like to place a plug for holding an FAV summit at the conference center here at this location, maybe in a couple of years. Looking at some of the interior construction. And then just looking at some of the features in the infield, certainly as we have our partners come out and test at SunTrax, having workshops for storing equipment or doing some readiness of the equipment will be important. And so there's a number of workshops that will be available to those that are testing out there. And then looking at the sector support buildings, so as you're out there observing the testing that's being done in the various sectors where you're testing, having the ability, having that connected to the infrastructure out there in order to gather data and analyze data in proximity to the testing. Pictures are loading very slowly. The geometry track, looking at some of the features of this geometry track. I'm just there's some of the recent construction there. Okay. And then one of the signature pieces, just looking at the rendering of the observation tower and the completed construction of that observation tower. So the construction of the facility is coming along very, very nicely. And again, late spring, early summer next year, the facility will be fully completed and ready for our partners to work with us for important testing that's going to occur to move transportation forward. And then there's just a nice high-level shot of the construction. And with that, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lily Eleftheriadou. I'm the director of the University of Florida Transportation Institute and a professor of civil engineering. And I'm here to talk about the iStreet Living Lab, which is a facility where technologies go once they graduate from SunTrax and they're ready to be tested in the real world. So what is iStreet? It's a collaboration between the University of Florida, the Florida Department of Transportation, and the city of Gainesville. And the objective is to make significant advancements through new technologies, telecommunications, sensors, autonomous connected vehicles that relate to transportation, mobility, and safety. We we have a variety of equipment out in the field, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the infrastructure. I'll talk a little bit about some of the research projects that we have, and I invite you to reach out to myself and Dr. Prithvi Manjunatha, who is the director of the iStreet Living Lab, and he's been here, and we've had a booth out there at this conference. So the slide here is showing our website, and there's a lot of detailed information about the type of equipment that's available, and it's available for testing. We have about 60 vehicles that are instrumented between the Florida Department of Transportation and the City of Gainesville and the University of Florida fleet. And they are able to communicate with the infrastructure. They receive information. We've been doing testing with that. There's about 130 roadside units along I-75 through the FRAME project, and several other projects within the City of Gainesville around the University of Florida campus. And more information is available on our website. In addition to the equipment in Gainesville, we've been working with other areas within Florida. So as part of iStreet, we have a data analytics database that collects all the information that is being collected through connected vehicles and some of our other research projects. And in combination with that, we assemble data from other areas across Florida. And so we have the capability to look at different aspects of mobility and safety, from signal control to crashes, and be able to cross-tabulate and compare across different applications. Now, why Gainesville? Gainesville is a very busy, pre-COVID and hopefully after, place with lots of pedestrians, bicycles, scooters, one of the best transit systems in the state. And it's really an ideal place to test in a real-world environment because of course, Florida's good weather, and in addition, younger population willing to test new technology. So it's an ideal place to come and evaluate in a real-world environment. And the setting and the information, the sensors that we have out there allows us to collect performance information through fisheye cameras and other sensors out in the field. So our aspiration, this is aspirational here, is to be a leading global living lab for mobility innovators, where, you know, if you have a new technology that you are ready to test out in the real world, you can come and evaluate it there. We can help with installation. We can help with evaluation. We can help with extracting performance measures through sensors that are out there and are available. So we facilitate this type of testing for the purpose of ultimate deployment. And we shouldn't forget that we are extremely interested in deployment and in real-world applications. So we want to provide this ecosystem for research, for development, for deployment, and also for workforce development, because, you know, because of our students, because of the facilities, this is something where we can provide and have people come and visit and see how the deployments are working out, what our lessons learned are, and we have lots of lessons already, and facilitate the deployment in other areas. So what is different about our vision for iStreet is that we're looking at the system. We're not just looking at one aspect. So because of the way we're collecting data, we're collecting information, we're able to see how one component affects other components. And so from that, we're looking at the system perspective, how technologies are integrated within the overall environment. And of course, because of our partnership, we are very interested in the intersection between research and practice. And through research, the results from research can inform what the next steps are, what the choke points are for deployment. We can provide that type of information. We think that this is a very useful kind of feedback loop of information. Here's what we're finding about new technologies. Here's what we're finding about what the problems are. So let's go develop the types of technologies that are going to help us get past some of the choke points. So we want to be the place for testing advanced mobility technologies with a focus on real-world testing. We also have, as part of our overall research, the capability to develop spin-off companies. We have several products that are nearing commercialization. So at the same time, we're looking at opportunities for those steps. And the University of Florida is very well set up for commercialization through intellectual property and collaborations with startups, and they provide excellent support for that. In addition, as I mentioned, the workforce development is something that we want to continue to cultivate, and we've been doing this already, but through iStreet, because of all the know-how and the technologies and the lessons learned with deployment, we have the opportunity then to engage other students and transportation professionals in understanding how these technologies work, what the problems are, and how to best facilitate deployment. Some of the infrastructure projects I'm going to show now is one is the I-75 frame, which has about 150 roadside units along the facility around Gainesville and Ocala. The Florida DOT 8 project, which has 13 signalized intersections instrumented and 7 mid-block crossings. We're getting ready to do some testing for pedestrian warnings and bicycle warnings, so systems that are going to be able to communicate with the infrastructure and provide drivers with warnings about the presence of pedestrians. And the third one is the Gainesville Trapezium, which has several signalized intersections around the University of Florida campus, and we've done already some testing and evaluations. And one of the interesting findings was we did a focus group with some of the drivers driving around with connected vehicles. And these are people from the University of Florida fleet and the city of Gainesville and FDOT who were driving around and getting information from connected vehicles. And the feedback we got was, this is great, please bring us more. And we're looking for ways where we can instrument more UF fleet vehicles with that technology, since they were very happy with that. And one of the suggestions that came out of the focus groups was, we'd like to have them integrated with a navigation system. So this issue of integration, which we've heard in the conference before, is becoming important once we start to get into deployment. As I mentioned earlier, we have built a data analytics web-based database where all the research projects that use the iStreet infrastructure, the data that are being developed are combined within the database, and we are adding other data as we get them from other projects across the state. We have an autonomous shuttle operating in downtown Gainesville. It's operated by Transdev, and the funding came from FDOT, and it's operated by the RTS, the transit system in Gainesville, and it's in the second phase right now. We have it also connecting with one of the traffic signals, and it's operating within the general traffic. And we've done some evaluations with the shuttle. Interestingly, people who use it and pedestrians, bicyclists are very happy with it. The survey that we did before and after showed that once people started to use it, they became very comfortable with it. They were happy to use it. There's a safety driver, so that put them at ease. The only issue that we have found is a problem is the speeds, and drivers have been complaining about the slow speeds. It runs around 12 miles an hour, and so that's the only issue that future deployment should start to think about. The other impacts that we've looked at for traffic have been the way that other vehicles follow it, but the information that we are extracting from video can help us also model things like car following and gap acceptance, so that when you're interested in a deployment elsewhere, we have at least some initial information on what the trajectory of the vehicle is, what it's expected to do, what the overall traffic operations are going to be with that type of deployment. Another interesting project we're working on is for optimization of signal control together with vehicle trajectories, and I'm seeing the video is not going to work here. But what we did here is developed an algorithm that jointly optimizes signal control with trajectories for vehicles as they are approaching. So we have developed a system where we are sensing vehicles as they arrive, with autonomous connected vehicles through DSRC, wireless communication, but also for conventional vehicles through video and radar. And through Fusion, we use this information to provide vehicles with optimal trajectories. The ultimate goal there is to minimize travel time, to minimize delay, and to maximize throughput. And we're seeing significant impacts at the intersection through simulations, of course, but also we did some testing at the Turl, and this is at an intersection now in Gainesville, where we're hoping to do some more field testing with the technology. We've been doing a lot more exercises in simulation to see how we can take advantage of those technologies to maximize the throughput and minimize travel time. And I'm not going to spend too much time on these because there are videos that don't seem to want to run here. But the objective is to communicate, leverage the information that we're getting from autonomous connected vehicles in such a way where we can maximize the throughput. And it can make significant changes, improvements in the throughput to the tune of 20–30% if we have both autonomy and connectivity. So we've been doing more experiments with freeway operations, with roundabouts, and with freeway weaving operations. Okay, this one wants to run, so that's good. What you're seeing at the top is how the facility works with autonomous vehicles, and the facility at the bottom is same demand, but with conventional vehicles. And this work is by a PhD candidate, Ehsan Amini, I know he's at the conference, he may be here. He's done a phenomenal job with optimizing traffic so that the way we are managing traffic, we're able to improve the capacity of the facility by about 20%. This is now in simulation. So as you're seeing, with the bottom, you start to have congestion. At the top, there's no congestion because of the way we are managing the traffic and creating gaps as people are merging, so that we have a much smoother flow of traffic. Another application is AI-based video processing, where we're looking at, through fisheye cameras, trajectories of vehicles, pedestrians, and any other units of traffic. And so through that, we're able to extract near misses. We've been doing cross-testing between the near misses and crashes at the intersection, so that we are able to identify the problems before they happen. And this is something that the University of Central Florida has been working on as well. So this, we believe, holds significant promise to improve safety. Another interesting project we did was on school zone safety, where an app that had geolocated speed limits was giving warnings to the drivers as they were approaching a school zone. And my colleague Ekta Jain is, I believe, at the conference, and she was the PI for this project, and she was monitoring where drivers are looking at when they approach the school zone, when they had the warnings and when they didn't have the warnings. So significant potential for helping people provide them warnings for school zones, but also for bicyclists and other people. As you can see here in the video, the dot is showing where the driver is looking at, and that provides us with very significant information for how we can design our systems to facilitate the information getting to the driver or to the pedestrian. Another aspect we're looking at is the mobility hubs, and we're working very closely with the city of Gainesville. My colleague Jacob Jan is leading this effort, and it's a very interesting way to look at the transit and the transportation system more broadly. And we're very thankful to the city of Gainesville for working with us on this one. And with that, I will turn it back to our moderator. Thank you for your attention.
I told you it was going to be a great panel discussion, and I've learned a lot even of things that I didn't know that we're doing here in the state of Florida. So once again, can you please join me in thanking Brad, Nicola, and Dr. Lilly for their time. So the mission of the FAV event, and the reason many of us are here today, is to learn from the forward-thinking public policies, infrastructure, and technology that exist here in Florida. We've created an ideal climate for the implementation and deployment of autonomous and connected vehicle technologies, and it is our hope that you will take the understanding that you've gained today and over the last few days back home to your communities. As many of you know, each year the FAV Summit is hosted in a different city in Florida. I would like to thank my staff for all that they have done to help with this conference this year. And on behalf of all of the team at the Central Florida Expressway Authority, it has been an honor to serve you and serve as this year's host, and I hope you all enjoyed your visit to Orlando. And now I am pleased to announce that as we celebrate a decade of this event in Florida, the 2022 10th Annual Florida Automated Vehicle Summit will be held in Jacksonville and hosted by the Jacksonville Transportation Authority, commonly referred to as JTA. So please join me this afternoon in welcoming Bernard Schmidt, VP of Automation and Innovation of JTA, to the stage to give you a preview of what we have to look forward to in 2022.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bernard Schmidt, Vice President of Automation and Innovation for the JTA. On behalf of the JTA, our CEO, Nat Ford, our Board Chair, Ari Jolly, congratulations on another amazing FAV Summit. I want to personally thank the FAV team for bringing us all together for what has been an outstanding week. Over the past 3 days, we have shared ideas, heard about emerging trends, technologies, and proved once again why Florida is the best place to continue our work in the AV space. As we heard during this summit, autonomous vehicles and the technology that will connect smart cities across our nation has the potential to transform the way we move people and goods. That is essential and especially true in Florida. We are not waiting for the future to arrive, it's already here. From Miami to Lake Nona, from Tampa to Jacksonville, public agencies and the private sector are introducing autonomous vehicle through pilot programs, deployment, and educational initiatives. That includes the work that we are doing in Jacksonville at the JTA. Go ahead and run the video. I'll kind of talk over that. So we are excited to welcome you next year to Amelia Island in Jacksonville for the 10th Annual FAV Summit. We're working hard on the ultimate urban circulator, our vision to develop the nation's first public transportation network powered by electric, autonomous vehicles, and smart city technology in the heart of downtown Jacksonville. The U2C will leverage existing infrastructure and expand our network to connect downtown Jacksonville to historic neighborhoods, vital medical campuses, and to the entertainment and sports destination residents want to go. It will increase connectivity, reduce greenhouse emissions, and create a blueprint for cities across the nation looking to do the same. We have made significant progress in 2021, securing local funding for our second phase and launching a first-of-its-kind AVD bond procurement process to begin phase 1. At the same time, we continue to form deep relationships with our local school systems, higher education partners to socialize this technology and to inspire the next generation of STEM graduates. We are developing workforce solutions that protect the employee and not necessarily the job function, to ensure that folks like the JTA bus operators, the mechanics, have the skills that they need to transition to their new role as they continue their careers with us. Our Test and Learn program is flourishing with national and international partnerships, a full educational curriculum and engagement throughout Northeast Florida. Again, the Test and Learn is all about how we really give critical feedback to the OEMs, really creating a platform to how we can all build this together. So next year, you'll have the chance to see all this progress in person, and what we hope will be the innovation capital of the state, Jacksonville. So again, we're looking forward to hosting you in the largest landmass city in the United States. Like many cities in Florida, we are blessed by our beautiful beaches, weather, and other amenities. And so we are excited to welcome you to the world of Northeast Florida next year, December 14th to December 16th at the Omni Amelia Island Resort. We can't wait to welcome you to Jacksonville and to continue our collaboration with you in 2022. Looking forward to seeing you all next year. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending the 9th Annual FAV Summit. Look forward to seeing all of you next year in Jacksonville.